My mum was the most selfless lady. She was always prepared to go out of her way for other people. She loved her family more than anything. She loved it when we were all around. She taught me so much just by who she was and the example that she was to us. She was an amazing homemaker. She loved spending time in the kitchen and preparing meals for not only her family but for the people around us. So in 2009, my mum went in for a very routine procedure and went for her follow-up checkup 2 weeks later on her own, and was given the news that she had cancer. That word, when it's affected somebody close to you, is such an awful word. And I think initially there was such a denial that we just kind of rallied around what we needed to do, but never ever did I think for once that this sickness was going to claim her life. I never thought that I would lose her. I just saw it as a season of me being strong for her and helping her through this time, but never thought the outcome would be what it ended up being. So in the beginning stages of 2010, my mum had been through several treatments, and her health had deteriorated quite a lot after her last procedure, and she landed up in hospital very unwell. And Grant and I spent a week at Entebeni Hospital with her, going through the watches of the night with her, praying through the night with her, helping her keep her fever down with a wet face cloth. Grant and I would take turns sleeping on the mattress in the room with her. The last memory I have of her being conscious was her looking at me with a scared look in her eyes and saying, "I can't believe it's come to this." And I think she knew that she was losing her fight at that moment. And we rushed her from her little ward down to the ICU in a lift. The nurses took her in the lift and we had to run down the stairs, and I remember collapsing on the stairs for a moment, just trying to gather some strength. Also still not believing that this was the end. And she fought in ICU for another 4 nights. She was on a ventilator, so she wasn't really responding to us. So we never had another conversation with her, but we had 4 days of praying for her, singing over her, declaring the truths that we cling to, that we know are true. We worshipped through the night. We would literally see her heart rate and her vital signs spiking as we stopped singing. So we kept going. There were about 3 of us. There were ladies that would pray over her and sing over her. So yeah, those last few days, I think I probably slept 1 or 2 hours over that whole period of time. So even though physically I didn't look brave, I think God just gave me that strength to stand next to my mom's bedside in those moments and to stand in the gap for her and to pray. And although it seemed so obvious to everybody else, I still hadn't entertained in my mind that we were going to lose her until that Thursday when the doctor came to us and sat us down and said, "We need to make a decision here because the machine is what's keeping your mum alive." And so we had to make a decision to be brave and to switch off that machine and to see what God was going to do from there. And even in that moment, I trusted for a miracle. I believed that God could do it. And we prayed, and she went for another probably 4 or 5 hours, which was a lot longer than the doctor thought. And we slowly watched the life go from her, and we prayed over her in those last moments, and I physically saw her spirit leave her body. It was such a confirmation of what we believe about eternity and where we go. And I saw God take her spirit from her body, and we released her in that moment. As hard as it was, there was a clarity and a closure and a peace about that moment, because I knew where we had released her to. I knew that God had her in his hands, and I knew that she was at peace. I knew that she knew her dad. I think that was the thing I clung to the most, was that she knew her Heavenly Father. So I don't think she was scared anymore. I think the lesson that I've learned in all the trials that I've walked through is that being brave is a choice. It doesn't come naturally to anyone. It's a decision that you make. Some days it just looks like putting one foot in front of the other. Other days it involves other people helping you and holding your hand and encouraging you to go forward. But it's never an easy decision. Being brave is a choice. It's a decision that you make.